But first, the latest on Wellington's building. Staff are out of the biggest office block in the city for 2 weeks. That's next. But as the Wellington City Council and the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment look into whether the earthquake-damaged office building on Wellington's Molesworth Street, number 61, was being unlawfully used for residential purposes, the property's owner has given his first interview about the building and its tenants. Now, initial demolition work has begun there this afternoon. When the earthquake hit, an unknown number of people were living in 61 Molesworth Street. Checkpoint has spoken to a family who was living there in office space and have been unable to return to collect their possessions. They were not insured and they appear to have not been covered by building insurance. They've lost everything they own. We've tried repeatedly to get someone from Prime Property to talk to us about who was living in the building and why they were there. This morning we did get hold of Eyal Aharoni, the company's CEO. At first he declined to be interviewed, but he kept talking. After we told him we were recording, this is what he said.
I'm advised by my solicitors that I can't talk about this matter, but I will just say one little thing. The earthquake hasn't been caused by us. The building was not at risk, and it is unfortunate that people have been suffered loss and lost their property, may have lost their property, but this has got nothing to do with the fact that they have been living. This family has been living in a commercial property.
There were other families too, weren't there? Were there as many as 200 people living in what should have been office spaces?
These numbers are, I don't know where you got those numbers, John, they're incorrect. There was a very small number of people living in Molesworth Street, and I'm not actually clear that it was illegal. My lawyers are currently checking the information, but this building was not earthquake prone.
When you say you're not actually clear, Eyal, you're a property owner and developer. You're very good at it. I understand you have a large portfolio. You absolutely must know the difference between commercial and residential property. They didn't have an attached bathroom specifically for their use. The shower was a general purpose shower downstairs. I mean, you know this is not within the rules that the Wellington City Council operate for residential properties in their city.
John, you're not interviewing me.
I am.
John, you're interviewing yourself. Okay. All right.
Well, I'd like to.
John,
the problem is.
Excuse me, John.
Answer my questions, and then it will be an interview.
John, you're asking a question. You need to listen to the answers.
Okay.
We're checking the facts at the moment. The building actually was legally to be occupied by 1,000 office workers. Okay, we didn't put any person at risk, and there was some mistakes that may have been done that we are checking through the system at the moment. That number that you just mentioned, 200 people or whatever, it's completely incorrect. There was a very small number of people, which I actually don't know the number. Okay,
Jamie Meyer. I got the 200 from Jamie Meyer, who sent a text to Olive saying, and I quote, "Where should I put you, Olive? It's not the only building that has damage. You should be lucky you have Kalina Terrace as an option. I have 200 other people at Hotel St George."
That's right, but this is Hotel St George. This is a different property. That is a different property that is a residential property.
Okay, so they were already there. They hadn't been moved in there from other buildings.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Jamie is looking after many other properties, which are residential properties. And I just want to tell you that at the time of the earthquake, the other building that you mentioned, 142 Wakefield Street, had no one in the building.
Okay, so you are absolutely emphatic there was no one living in 142 Wakefield Street.
At the time, the building at the time of the earthquake was completely empty.
There had been people living there, though, hadn't there? And
earlier, they may have been a small number of people, but they have been asked to leave quite a few weeks before the earthquake. They have been vacated.
How often have you or Prime put people in office space and charged them rent for residential accommodation. How many times have you done this? Is this something that you've routinely done at Prime?
No, John. This only happened in this occasion.
What? But it had happened previously at Wakefield Street, hadn't it?
John, I need to double check those items. It may have happened in Wakefield Street. I can't confirm that, but definitely Wakefield Street was.
And how many people were in Molesworth, 61 Molesworth? How many people did you have living there in office space?
I need to check that, but very few people.
When you say very few, if you're able to tell me very few, you're able to tell me a number, surely.
It wouldn't be more than 4 or 5 people.
Right. Well, Olive and Ernest were there with their 2 children, so that's 4. So are you saying there is no one else living in that building when the earthquake happened at all? No one else at all?
John, we are checking those. We are checking that, but there may have been another 1 or 2 people living in the building. Maybe, I'm not sure. We are checking those facts. And just one thing that you forgot to mention earlier, that Olive and Ernst has been requested. You know, my manager Jamie has done them a favor because they wanted to stay in the Thorndon area for the school. Okay, and unbeknown to us, we didn't know about it. He's done them a favor. He put them in that very large space, which is about 5,000 square feet, and charged them very little for it. He charged them $300 a week for a large area, which includes power. And I'm pretty sure they enjoy that occupation very much.
They'd been given 90 days notice, hadn't they, Eyal? So they were living in that building because there was nowhere else for them to go. They had previously been in another one of your properties. That property had to be vacated because of water damage. They went into 61 Molesworth Street, which was office space. Now, let's not get carried away with the philanthropy of accommodating people who had been living in one of your residential properties in office space, empty office space, with a toilet down the stairway, the exit out the back, and a shower on a different floor. I mean, you know, this is pretty basic stuff, Eyal, and they had been given 90 days notice there.
John, once again, you're interviewing yourself and not me, okay? We did not need to provide the family accommodation. We were trying to help them. The easiest way for us was to tell them, sorry.
Eyal, you had a tenancy agreement with them. You had an existing binding tenancy agreement with them that you had signed with them. They were in a property that was manifestly ill-equipped, not fit for purpose because of water damage and leakage. You moved them into office space. You had a tenancy agreement with them. You had a contract with them.
John, once again, you are not interviewing, but you're putting your own opinion, okay? We were trying to help them. We took them, not me, my manager, without our knowledge, offered them a luxury apartment in Oriental Bay, okay, at the same rate, okay? And they declined to take it, but they were quite happy to take a very, very cheap option.
Yeah, can you just, sorry, okay, that sounds great. The luxury apartment in Oriental Bay. Can you tell me what the rent would have been if they had stayed there? Can you, because I'd like to hear it from you. How much would they have had to have paid for that luxury apartment in Oriental Bay? Because I know the figure, Eyal, but I'd like to hear it from you.
The rent that our manager offered them at the luxury apartment was the same rate they paid in the previous apartment, which was $570 a week, which was a very modest figure for that apartment.
That was for the first 3 months, wasn't it? And then it went up after that, didn't it, Eyal?
It never gone that way. And it was only a temporary option for them until they can find another accommodation. So he, out of his generosity, put them into Molesworth Street. He helps them. He paid for the delivery of the relocation of the goods. He took them to the supermarket in his car. He accommodated them. They paid a fraction of the rent that they would have paid otherwise. And it was only a temporary solution until they can find another place to go. And when they started to feel comfortable and didn't really want to go, he had no option but give them a notice to leave. And under the Act, he can only give them a notice for 90 days. But it was 1 month prior to the earthquake.
So at first he was motivated by kindness and concern for their well-being, and he put them in office space, but then he didn't want them in the office space any longer, so obviously his concern for their well-being lapsed and he gave them 90 days notice. That's confusing, isn't it, Eyal? Can you see how you might be confused by those two different...
John, you're very good at interviewing yourself. You're talking to me, you need to listen to what I say, and don't put words in my mouth.
No, I'm not. I'm praising what you're saying to me.
Yes, you are, John, and I hope...
So either Jamie had given them accommodation...
John, when you record my words, I hope that you won't manipulate it and record it in a very selective way.
No,
okay?
I don't do that. That's not what I do.
Well, let's hope. Okay? He gave them a temporary option so they can find themselves another place to go. He was just trying to help them, and they simply didn't go. Nobody was forcing them. Okay, in your view, the apartment was uncomfortable. You have to go down to the shower, 1 floor to the shower. Okay, there's many houses that you have to go down 1 floor to the shower. I agree. It's not the best way to live. But we're not in Russia here. We haven't forced them to stay there. They could have left any time they wanted. And then when they refused to leave, he gave them a notice to leave.
They had a tenancy agreement with you, didn't they? They had accommodation. They had moved into that accommodation. That accommodation had water damage and leaked. They had a tenancy agreement with you. The alternative that they were offered was an apartment in Oriental Bay, which was going to be $570 for 3 months and then $1,200 a week from that point on, which clearly Olive and Ernest simply couldn't afford.
I'm not sure where you got those numbers.
Well, I got those numbers from Olive and Ernest. Then, and from Jamie. And then we find ourselves in a situation where they are in an office building which is not zoned residential, which is not meant to have people living in it, where their belongings still are. They can't get their belongings. You have offered them no insurance coverage. They are completely out of pocket. They are bereft. They have lost everything they have. And the buck seems not to stop with you in any way, Eyal.
John, you're manipulating once again. We are not responsible for the earthquake. The city council took over the control of the property. Anyway, I think I've said enough. It's quite long. I think if people will start to get bored if you have to listen to such a long conversation, John. And I've already, my lawyer's going to be pretty upset with me for talking for so long. So I think we have to finish at that point, eh?
Yeah, one final question before you go. Have you ever previously been prosecuted, or Prime Property ever previously been prosecuted by the Wellington City Council or any branch of it?
Yes, Prime Property once, I'm trying to remember, but once there was a prosecution against us for some breach, some vegetation or something, some earthworks that was done, a minor thing, or maybe not minor. There was one prosecution against us for some earthworks. Yeah.
Just one?
As far as I remember, we've been in the business for 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the investigation into the people living in 61 Molesworth Street, which is being conducted both by IMBY and by the Wellington City Council, what are you going to say to explain why there were people in that building when they should not have been living there?
I will say what I want to say to the investigators.
Eyal Aharoni, the CEO of Prime Property.